1971 Roadrunner.
The year is 1971, and the average price of a new car in America is less than $4,000. Today, the average price is just under $50,000.
These are Phillips 3 for the money performance gasolines.
Oh, Tom, you take all the fun out of shopping.
A gallon of gasoline back then would set you back 36 cents. Today, it'll cost you $3.67.
I'd like to buy the world a home and furnish it with love.
And the median price of a new house in 1971 was around $25,000. Today, that same home will cost you around $400,000.
I have directed Secretary Connally to suspend temporarily the convertibility of the dollar into gold or other reserve assets. Your dollar will be worth just as much tomorrow as it is today.
Some would say there is nothing as permanent as a temporary government measure. When Nixon closed the gold window in 1971, it never reopened. So what about the claim that the dollar would hang on to its purchasing power? Since 1971, the prices of cars, gasoline, and other goods have gone up by a factor of 10, while real estate prices have jumped up 15 or 20x and sometimes even more.
The money's broken. The inflationary monetary policies continue to devalue the purchasing power of the dollar. People can't save, and so they have to go into assets like real estate and stocks in order to essentially use it as a savings account. And that causes all kinds of distortions because it goes beyond its utility as used as shelter.
Since 1971, as the supply of money in the global financial system has continually increased through money printing, backed by nothing more than a paper promise of repayment, so has the cost of buying a home. That's what broken money does to a society. When inflation, which is defined as the expansion in the supply of money, combines with decades of low interest rate policies where taking on debt is normalized, assets like real estate become savings instruments, and their prices reflect this store of value premium far above their utility value.
Real estate is the number one store of value in the world. There's around 330 trillion US dollars of global wealth invested into real estate. That's around 67% of global wealth. And real estate is also the number one collateral used in the world and accepted by financial banks.
We own more houses, not because of the utility value. We own more houses because our money is getting worth less and we're going to pay it back in cheaper nominal terms.
Homeownership is a core component of the American dream. But for more and more Americans, it's becoming unattainable. More and more people are priced out of the market. Millions have become perpetual renters, and studies show many young people don't think they will ever be able to afford a home.
When you were 16, you were making how much?
$20 an hour. $20 an hour when I was 16 as a lifeguard in Vancouver. My kids make $16 an hour as a lifeguard today. That was in 1987. They make $4 less an hour in inflation-adjusted terms. No wonder kids today or your generation can't afford a house.
Some argue there are even broader implications to society of this drastic shift in economic hope and prosperity.
People feel like they can't own a home, and they feel like they can't have the space to have a family anymore. It's simply become unaffordable because the dollar continues to lose purchasing power and their income is not keeping up. And that's really what you see in the statistics in terms of real wages. It's not keeping up with the price appreciation of housing.
A broken fiat system that relies on manipulation results in distorted price signals, misallocation of resources, and an ever-widening wealth gap. It's a house built on quicksand. So what would a different system look like? What if normal, everyday working people didn't also have to become real estate investors or Airbnb managers to protect their savings? What if houses were affordable and served as your nest, your place to live and plant roots, instead of also being the primary nest egg? Proponents of a return to sound money point to Bitcoin as a solution.
Bitcoin represents a paradigm shift. It's the digital transformation of money, property, and energy.
Bitcoin for me is digital real estate. Why? Real estate is not owned by people because of its utility. People own real estate to store value. Because the inflation in the fiat system has made real estate so expensive, it is impossible for most people to buy real estate, and therefore it's also impossible to build wealth. It's much more accessible, though, to buy Bitcoin.
You don't understand the defects in your property until you see perfect synthetic property or digital property. Just like you don't understand the defects in your currency until you see perfect currency.
Real estate may have been an obvious choice compared to a debasing fiat dollar for people wanting to store their wealth and preserve their purchasing power over the last few decades. But now that we have Bitcoin, we can also see the limitations of real estate.
I happen to pull out a genie in a bottle, and the genie comes out and says, well, Michael, I'll give you infinite wishes. Let's start with real estate, real property, and strip every defect away from it.
Defects of real estate include tax burdens and maintenance cost. Homes are tied to a specific geographic location. They're not easily subdivided into smaller units. They're not quickly and easily bought and sold without significant broker's fees. They could be subject to government confiscation and natural disasters, and the list goes on. Satoshi Nakamoto created a virtual asset that suffers from none of the defects of this tangible physical asset. It dematerializes property and turns it into information, like Netflix did to Blockbuster and like email did to the fax machine.
I say to the genie, I like the way you fixed my property and made it maintenance-free and indestructible and immortal, and allow me to program on a computer and move at the speed of light and make it non-confiscatable. But now I'd like you to guarantee me that you don't sell more than 21 million blocks of this in the universe forever. If you actually could get the universe to agree that there'll never be more than 21 million blocks of perfect property, that's the icing on the cake, right? When I did everything else, I created digital property, but when I capped it at 21 million blocks, I made it digital scarcity, or the ultimate scarce property.
What makes Bitcoin digital property is you actually own it. You don't actually own real estate. You own a deed from the government that says you own a home. With Bitcoin, you can actually see on the blockchain that you own the Bitcoin. And on top of that, Bitcoin is a better form of money. It's a better way to save over time.
As the central bankers were flooding the economy with excess currency, the currency is trying to find a tangible asset that will hold its value as the currency debases. And everybody chooses a different one depending upon what they know and what they're comfortable with. Bitcoin is one of those assets which is now being monetized, and it is rising through this chaos to be the apex property asset or the apex monetizing asset.
Bitcoin represents infinite monetary density, transportable across time and space, accessible to anyone on the planet, whether they have 500, or 500 million in any currency to save. And no government or central authority can debase it, confiscate it, or tell you what you can spend it on or who you can transact with. It's the apex form of real estate in cyberspace.
What if I could store a 10,000 floor building and I could wear it around my finger? Infinite economic density, the black hole, the white dwarf of money. The only reason that a casual investor wouldn't start to shift their allocation of savings from commercial real estate to Bitcoin is they don't understand Bitcoin.